Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind Podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. On this episode of the Painter Marketing Mastermind Podcast, we host repeat guest Zach Ausherman. Zach is the owner of Ausherman Painting, a residential painting company based in York, Pennsylvania that does approximately $2 million in annual revenue. In this episode, Zach deep dives into creating a winning company culture, the do's and don'ts of employee hiring and retention, and how to consistently generate 5-star Google reviews from your painting customers. Zach also elaborates on a difficult employee situation he is currently facing and some mistakes he has learned from in the process. If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Zach, thank you for coming on the Painter Marketing Mastermind Podcast for round 2, man.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so your first episode was extremely popular. This idea of succession planning, changes, cultural changes, the fact that some good changes are not always well received by everyone. It's been a while. What's been going on since we last spoke? How has that been going culturally?
Pretty well. I mean, I had a conversation with one of my employees yesterday. It was interesting. He said that he knows that he enjoys working for me because he's going to get taken care of. He said that in other jobs that he's had to go kind of grovel to get pay increases.
Yeah.
I make it a point, especially in the spring and summer. I can't do it so much in the winter just because, we don't make as much money in the winter, to review how everybody's doing, what they're getting paid. And I give, little incremental raises all the time. And guys love that. I don't even have time to sometimes even tell them that I did it. So it's just kind of
see a little more money come in, huh?
Yeah. A little surprise in there, when they see their direct deposit. But, and yeah, he loves that. I'm only ever in 6 months of running, or 6 years of running the company. I've only ever had 2 people ask me for raises. So that's, wow. I pride myself on that. Because before I came and worked for my dad and took over and everything, I worked in corporate situations, and I hated that you had to wait till your annual review to ever get any kind of raise. It just
kind of weird.
It didn't make any sense. Like, if you're doing well, then why wouldn't you get rewarded? So that's what we do, and it's worked well. Now, it's not all about money, of course, but we try to do a lot. I mean, we did a local Hershey Bears game not that long ago. We're going to do a cookout on Friday.
You took the whole team, you're saying, to the game? Yeah,
as many as could come. Yeah. One of the things, I think a lot of downtown cities and towns have done this recently. I very much enjoy it. It's called First Friday in downtown York, where they block off a bunch of restaurant areas, and they set up the tables out on the street. So I'll put out that, hey, I got a reservation for 10 people, first come first serve, come on down.
Nice.
That's been great because it's a smaller group, so you get to have more of a conversation, more one-on-one with the guys. Or I'll even say, bring your wives down. Now, kids probably not for that one, but yeah, it's good to have wives down and learn a little bit about them.
And so you'll take them out to dinner and comp the whole thing, and they get a nice night out and feel well cared for, and you're kind of building that culture and camaraderie.
Yeah. Yep.
It's great, man.
Yeah, we try to do as much as we can. I mean, one of the things we run WhatsApp feeds, so everybody checks in every day. If we get Google 5-star reviews, I try to put those out right away so everybody sees.
Nice.
Hey, we got a good review. Try to give them accolades as much as I can. I always try to say thank you or I appreciate you as much as I can too. They're the ones out there doing the work. Like they're the
Yep.
ones dealing with the heat and dealing with, bugs and all that stuff. Yeah, we're working hard to sell projects. Yeah, that's true. But they're the ones that are growing the business because they're doing the work and the customers like what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my wife and I started an auto detail business quite a long time ago, and I did some of the detailing. And I'll tell you what, I like sitting in front of the computer.
Yeah.
So that stuff's hard work, man. Painting's hard work.
Yeah.
It's good that you express the appreciation.
Yeah.
So you and I were chatting a little bit before we kicked off the podcast, and you were talking about an issue that you were having with an employee, someone you're probably gonna have to let go. And obviously we don't need to name names or anything, but I think these are tough conversations. These are tough decisions. So I'd love if we could just kind of hear a little bit about that and the process building up to it and what you're doing.
Sure. So we're to the point now. So what I did when I came in was I would project manage and I would sell. But as we grew, we realized that we needed another salesperson. So we got another one. He's great. He's full-time. He's been with me for 4 years now, almost 5, I believe. He was a crew leader before, so he knew painting. He was actually a carpenter even before that. So he's great with talking to customers outside about water issues and all that stuff. But we got to the point where even him and I couldn't handle all the sales. So we needed to hire someone else. And we tried to do it in a part-time model. And I think that might have been our downfall because we didn't get a lot of great applicants that way. So I think this next time, if we go at it again, we'll probably do it full-time.
So you hired a part-time estimator.
Yeah, that was the original thought, but after, especially in the spring, with how many leads that we get, I mean, we just get inundated. She was pretty much full-time. How we were doing it was she'd get paid for each visit, and then she'd get a percentage of the gross, which I think worked out okay, but my other salesperson is, base plus commission. So, there is a strive to go out there and sell for sure, but if he has a bad week or two, it's okay. He's still gonna.
So she would get paid. Do you mind sharing those figures?
Sure. It's she was getting $45 a visit
Per visit.
And then we'd pay her mileage, so she didn't have a company vehicle.
Okay.
And then she get 4% of gross.
4% of gross. And then your other estimator, he's on a salary, and then he gets a commission. What does that commission look like for him?
So it's 38 base and then 4% on gross.
4% on gross for him as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the point with that one is if he sells, his goal is always to sell $1 million a year or more.
That's what you're looking for as your KPI. You want to hit over $1 million.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, there's top sales guys around the country that are doing too.
Sure.
So there's, if things go as planned, there's no reason why you can't hit that or do more. And that gets them, into the mid 70s, low 80s.
Sure. Do you have a certain close rate you're looking for from your estimators?
Yeah, we like to be between 40 and 45% is what we like to hit. Yeah.
Got it. And so you think you started off right off the bat, you started wrong, I guess, with this other estimator.
Yeah, putting it out there as a part-time position, I don't think we got as good applicants as we would have if we would have said it was full-time. The other thing was, I think we rushed it a little bit. I think I was thinking about this morning or even last night because I knew I was coming on this with you.
Yep.
One of the tough things for me, and I think for any business owner, is okay, when do you just make it happen? It just needs to happen. So you make it happen. And then when do you take a little extra time, slow down to speed up? Because you have to figure that out sometimes. And
it's not always easy, man. Knowing when to massive imperfect action versus when you better be cautious.
Right. So I think with her hiring, we were a little too, we didn't take enough time with it. We should have
Fire ready aim.
Yeah, we should have taken a little bit more time, and just maybe walk through some disc profiles and done that kind of stuff too. We didn't. She's very personable. She gets along with the customers really well. It's the detail stuff. And I just read a book by Jeb Blunt called People by You. And it was interesting. He talked a lot about how, you want to create that trust, and it's great that the salespeople are nice people, and you need to be nice when you're there, and that'll get you maybe the initial sell, but you have to have the detail in there for the long term. So it made me think, well, okay, so she's selling that initial one, but if she's missing stuff, and the crews are going in there, and the customers know that something's not right, communication isn't correct, things aren't in the proposal right, more than likely she's not going to sell that next one. The customer is going to have a bad experience when the crew's actually there, and they're not going to call us back, because we're either going to be calling and saying, oh my gosh, we missed this, can we split the cost of it, or that just puts a sour taste in the customer's mouth right away. So it's great that she could have that camaraderie and relate, but just miss the details. And she's 6 months in, something like that. So at 6 months, you should be able to start getting some details done.
Sure.
You're gonna maybe I hit on this a little too much, because I want people to, again, we talk about culture, I want people to feel comfortable. I do believe in when, even when I started selling, of course, I'm not perfect. You're going to underbid stuff. You just are. Yeah. I mean, you're going to miss something that needed more prep or whatever, but you can't miss not having enough material cost in there, that kind of thing. Like, that's just real basics of estimating. You got to get that detail in there. So
kind of making pretty serious rookie mistakes 6 months in.
Right.
Well, I find it interesting. Obviously, you do have to have that attention to detail, but for an estimator, for a salesperson, there's such a focus on the personality, being engaging, getting people to like and trust you, that I think sometimes, we think, oh, the project manager, that's the person who really needs to be detail oriented, but you can't totally overlook it, or you're going to create what you're saying is this disconnect between where the company is. I mean, ultimately it makes you look unprofessional, like you don't know what you're doing.
Right. My crew leads are all pretty experienced. So, if everything is in the work order correctly, they have the paint that they need, for the first couple of days, they're pretty good to go. I mean, we don't really, we of course get status updates and that for scheduling and all that, but I don't have to micromanage them. If they don't have all that information though, it can spiral, fast. So it's very important that all that detail is in there. And multiple times a year, we'll hear from a customer, hey, your proposals are really well done. We appreciate that detail. We appreciate that that's in there. So that's one of the reasons we went with you, because the competition's quote, is a QuickBooks quote or whatever, and we're going to paint this. Yeah. There's no detail there. Well, you got to take a couple extra minutes and put the detail in there, especially at our target market. I mean, our target's pretty high. I mean, yep. We're not hitting a lot of interior designers or crazy high markets, but we're up there. Our average house in Pennsylvania that we work on is probably $400,000 to $500,000 house, something like that. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, and everyone's had a bad experience with a contractor along the line. So a lot of it's about establishing that trust, and the more detail you include, the more they know what they're paying for. Kind of the antithesis to the number on a napkin kind of deal. You want to be the absolute opposite of that.
And that's one of the things that my dad and I had conflicts about early on when I first came in too, because back, in the 70s, 80s, even the early 90s to a point, you could still go in, yeah, we'll paint this, and this, and it'll cost $1,500 or whatever, shake their hand, and everybody trusted each other, and the deal was done, and you came and painted it and you got paid. I mean, that's the way it was 30 years ago. Well, that's not the way it is anymore. And there's multiple reasons for that. Young people want to see detail, liability. If something goes wrong, it needs to be in there. State regulation requires certain things to be in there. It's a whole different ball of wax than it was, 30 years ago.
Yeah. 100%. So with this estimator that you're going to have to let go, can you kind of walk us through what your process was over the past 6 months, maybe to try to not have to let her go, and then how you're focus on sort of handling this conversation, because this is always a touchy, sort of a difficult thing.
So what we did was we hired her, I believe it was early winter or something like that. And she did ride-alongs with me. She did ride-alongs with my sales manager. And probably, again, like some of it was probably my fault that I kind of let my sales manager do most of the training. And I trained him. So it was kind of one of those things that I would just, hey, how's it going? Are you making sure this is done or that's done? And then she would ride along with me. And there were winter for us, I know for a lot of painting companies too, is a critical time to sell stuff. So there was times where I had to just trust that the training was happening correctly, because I needed to sell this commercial job or that job or this job so that we could keep the guys going. We were down to only being like 3 or 4 weeks out for work in January, and that was the first time we had been that low in 3 years or something. We're just used to being out 3 months. So I think we were, now looking back in retrospect, we were fine.
Yeah.
But just it was a weird feeling to be in, because a couple years before that, there were times when we were only a week and a half out or something like that. So it didn't make sense for me to freak out. Maybe I did in my head a little bit, and when that happens, I'm the one that's going to put my foot down, put the pedal to the metal, and make sure things get sold, and we're going to do what we have to do to keep the guys going. So that was a little bit of why I think I let some of that go, and it was just bad timing maybe that way. And then what we've done recently is we use Paint Scout as our estimating software. So we have all the production rates and everything in there. She'll go in, she'll put all the dimensions, substrates, all that good stuff in there, then it'll spit out. Before she sends it off, we'll check it. We'll go in there and go through it all. And that's really where kind of the rub happened over the last month and a half, something like that. It's been, okay, have this ready to go before we even review it.
Right.
Is this 100%? I want to go in there and maybe tweak one thing and say, oh, you're awesome, that's good to go. And it was just almost every single one, there was something just completely missed. And
you don't want to be building it yourself, half building it.
Right. I want to review it quick, and that's what my sales manager would do when I first trained him. He would copy me in on everything. And I might have a little critique. It wasn't much, just, well, think about this, or make sure you spelled this correct, or just little silly stuff. But when you look in his proposals, he had everything. Everything was in detail. All that stuff was good.
Yeah.
And he underbid stuff because, again, we work on old houses. You're going to underbid stuff there and there, and it bothered him a lot. I could tell that it bugged him. She's had a couple of jobs done that we've completed that she's quoted that have gone over hours, and it didn't feel like that even bothered her. Right.
So maybe that sense of pride or accountability doesn't quite seem to be there as much.
Right. And that bothered me, that it didn't bother
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You want someone who cares, who takes pride in what they're doing.
Right.
So basically the two, it sounds like the two mistakes that you feel that you made were that you attracted the wrong kind of candidates with your job posting by making it part-time versus full-time. And then you sort of, I guess, abdicated responsibility in a way for the training where you thought, oh, well, I trained him, so he'll train her. And maybe it wasn't quite as structured. Maybe it wasn't quite as well monitored, or the SOPs really weren't there in a way to make sure she was set up to succeed.
Right. And I feel bad. I mean, this afternoon is going to happen. And I mean, that's how I'll start the conversation. You know, I feel bad. I think maybe we, didn't give you all the tools right away that you needed to make this happen. But in all honesty, it just isn't going to be a fit anymore. And I really do think that she could have a future in some kind of sales, because she is good with the customer. It's just not not with us. So
yeah, maybe something that doesn't require so much detailed estimates,
right
along those lines. So let's kind of shift gears a tiny bit and focus on the culture at your company. What's been happening, post secession, with your, taking over Ausherman Painting from your dad. How is that all going?
Going pretty well. My guys are, so I think, I forget if we talked about this. I know we talked about this at the last episode.
People will I mean, we filmed it quite a while ago, so feel free if you repeat a little bit, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah. It's I think we talked. Yeah. One of the things with my guys is I always say, I appreciate you, thank you, all that.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I remember a couple months ago, there was one of my guys that said, he could, for some reason I forgot to, and he like called me out on it. Which awesome. Is cool. That's awesome. I appreciate that. But yeah, we go, I mean, just like anybody else, it's up and down a little bit. I seem to, it feels like it goes down a little when I'm not around as much. So like I was at the PCA Expo for a week. About a week after that, I took a personal vacation just because April and May are always huge bidding seasons for us. So I try to get away a little bit right before that to recharge my batteries. And it seems like when I do stuff like that, I get a little more disconnected. And it feels like we're going down a little, but when I get back in and reconnect, I can build the team back up pretty quickly. And it's just doing little stuff. I mean, it's just, hey, I'm going to be in this area tomorrow. You guys are 5 minutes away. You want to go grab lunch?
Sure.
It's when we had a guy hit yesterday, I promoted an apprentice to a painter, recognized him in the morning meeting and everybody cheered him. He's been with us for 11 months, great kid. Had a guy hit 5 years on Monday, recognized him through social media.
Nice.
That kind of stuff. I mean, those guys, they like, having that little bit of individual attention, like we all do.
Sure.
So why wouldn't we? It takes me, I don't know, 5 minutes to put the little pictogram together with the couple of different pictures and say, congrats on 5 years and you're good to go. But yeah, it's funny to me. I mean, I read a lot of different books, and they talk about how guys get mired down in the day-to-day and they don't really work on culture. And I really do think you have to constantly work on it. You just do. And I think one of the reasons that we just get inundated with leads is that I try to use that culture in our marketing too. And I do believe that a lot of potential customers really see that. So one of the things that I tried to model almost right away when I started doing more marketing side of things, I give credit to my guys. So if you look at our social media feeds through Facebook, Instagram, you'll see Brent and Liz were on this project and they're doing a great job. I call them out.
Yep.
And I do see, I don't want to give myself any credit, but I have seen that other contractors are starting to do that a little more, which is cool. I appreciate that. They need to, in my personal opinion. Because I think in the past there was this old school thought of, well, they could be gone next week, so why would I recognize them? Because then, well, what does it matter?
Like they might take away some of it or something if they leave.
Right. It doesn't matter. The next customer isn't going to care that, well, yeah, I saw them through social media. Oh, they left. Okay. But you recognize the other careers too. They're good too. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have customers actually say that? Like if there's someone who's been, let's say Mike, and there's been a lot of Mike's great, Mike this, Mike that. You ever have a customer say, hey, is Mike going to do our project?
All the time. Yeah. So Jody won the Craftsman of the Year award for 2020.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
My senior crew lead. He's 33 years now, I think. He gets a lot of that because he's done a lot of the same customers over and over again. And a couple of the other guys get that. Hey, can I have this person back or that person back? And a lot of times we try to do that anyway, because they have a little bit of a relationship. They know the house, they know the dog, they know how to get in this or that way. So you're not relearning, a new person. And if they really like their work, that's great too.
But you're saying when they want this is mainly repeat business that we're talking about right now, right? So are there ever new customers that they go on? Obviously most prospective customers read reviews and they say, hey, I want Mike because I read a lot of good things about Mike.
It doesn't happen a ton. It's probably
I wouldn't expect it to. And It seems like that would be the fear would be, I don't want to pump Mike up because then if Mike leaves, then Ausherman Painting doesn't really have the glory. But I didn't think that level of attention to detail or that level of specificity is likely to really be common among prospective customers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, maybe I can think of maybe 2 or 3 over the last couple of years. Yeah. It's
not something painting company owners need to concern themselves with.
Right.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. The benefit that you're going to get from Mike being motivated by that and from your other employees, not just him, but other people seeing, wow, look at the attention he's getting because he's doing such a good job. I'd love to kind of get some of that as well. That's going to be 100 to 1 versus any kind of concern that Mike may no longer be an employee at your company.
It's almost like we could create a little like friendly competition, amongst them. We do. So we have a big push to get Google reviews. And the crew leads get a small, they get $40 for every Google review that they get.
Do they have to be, does it just have to be the Google review? Do they have to have anyone mentioned by name? How does that work?
We don't worry about that.
Just a review.
Just a review. Yeah. And then, that's been great. And it's a little bit of like, and then what we do too is I set a certain amount. I think it's like 42 for the first 6 months here, something like that. Because I try to hit certain milestones that we, need to get 100 or 150, whatever. So it really depends on the time. But what else we do is so they get that $40, but whoever gets the most in 6 months gets another bonus. And then if we get the overall goal, everybody gets a paid day off.
Oh, that's great. So then it's friendly competition, but it's also collaborative.
Right.
Man, I love that.
Yeah, that's huge for me because I don't want it to be nasty amongst them at all. And I want it to be a collective goal. So that's been big, and they hit it the last two times. So we're pushing them a little harder this time. But that's okay. You need to get pushed a little bit each time.
So you guys, what does that target look like typically for you guys every year? How many reviews are you trying to get?
This 6 months, I think we're trying to get like 45, something like that. So we're in between 90 and 100. As we grow a little bit, we'll try to push up more with that. There are times when I don't think I have one, but during COVID, when you went out to eat, at least in Pennsylvania, they weren't allowed to give you menus.
Yep.
So they had those little QR codes
Yep.
on the tables. And it gave me an idea because it was always an issue trying to get that Google link to the customer.
Yeah.
So we made these little half sheets for each crew, and it says something like, "Thank you for allowing us to do your work. I really hope you appreciate it. I wish you would, show whatever for my crew." And it has the picture of the crew lead, it has their signature, and then it has a QR code directly to the Google review site, Google My Business site, and then it has a Facebook QR code too, recommendation QR code. So they take their smartphone, they hit that QR code, it takes them right to the link. That's been great too. Worked really well. But yeah, the issue now is we have the Facebook QR code on there and they don't get credit for that. Because early on, Facebook recommendations seemed good, but then Facebook was kind of burying them. I don't know what they were doing.
I don't know. Yeah, Facebook, they seem to sort of gate them a lot or something. I mean, Google does this too. So they both do it. And I think it's an algorithm where for whatever reason, they decide that some reviews are fraudulent and that's why they do it. And there's really not a lot you're going to be able to do in terms of disputing that or trying to get the review to show up. But yeah, Facebook seems to do it quite a bit.
He's not really a competitor. He's a startup. I think he's maybe a year or two in. Definitely has fake reviews. You can tell. It's like 35 stars with Eastern European names and no review written. Like, what is this?
A bunch of 5 stars. Huh? Nothing. No details whatsoever out of 30 reviews. Yeah, that's
you're originally from Pennsylvania. There's not a lot of Eastern Europeans.
Yeah, no. That's a bit much. Yeah, don't do that. Right. Please don't do that.
Right.
Talk about sending the wrong message. For prospective customers who dig into that even a little bit. Like, okay, it doesn't really convey trust. We'll put it that way. Go ahead.
It's shortcutting. They know that's important, so they're going to find a shortcut to make it happen without doing the work.
Sure. Yeah, and you really don't need to. If you do things the right way. What I really like about what you're saying, because this QR code is big. A lot of people don't do it, but some people do it. What I haven't heard about, I gotta stop saying do. It's always weird when I use that. Some people do it, but now that I have a 5-year-old, my mind goes to places like that. But when you guys having the picture of the crew lead and the signature, that's unique. That personalizes it so much more because people want to give reviews to the project manager, the crew lead, to the painters that are on site. That's who they have a relationship with. They don't have a relationship with Ausherman Painting, not really. And I think that understanding is important for painting companies owners, especially as you scale your business. You have to keep that sort of small personal feel, that human connection, because nobody really cares about Ausherman Painting, but they're probably going to care about Mike.
Right.
Because they know Mike.
Yeah, one of my favorite contractors, I'm sure you know of him, Rick Holtz out of Richmond. If you read a lot of their reviews, they have like 14 crews. If you read a lot of the reviews, it talks about how it still feels like family. So they're really good with that. And we want to grow a little. We don't want to be that big, but we want to grow a little. Right. And you're right. That's the special sauce, is figuring out how to keep that in the culture, keep that in the business, so that people do feel that special touch.
Yeah. And it's easy when you're small and you're the owner and you're providing the estimate. Obviously you care. And then if you're still even doing some of the project management, they are going to be served well because it's your business and you really care. And the culture is just you. But as you grow, that changes.
Right.
So it seems like right now, one of the issues, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, if I'm totally out of left field here, but it seems like one of the issues that you're struggling with is you've come in, you've introduced all these cultural changes. I know in the beginning they weren't well received by everybody, but now it's breeding a lot of loyalty. People are excited. But when you leave and you're not there for a little while, there's sort of a downtick. So you're kind of carrying the onus at this point of the culture.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, we run, so each crew has to check in every day. So even when I'm gone, if I see something good, I'll try to comment on it so that they know that I'm still seeing what they're doing,
Seeing
and
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing what's going on. But it seems like, and I very much appreciate this. I think you have to have this to a point. I have a very good office manager that,
Mm,
when I do go away, she tries to, insulate me so that I just have the time away,
sure.
you
Yeah. Need a
know,
break.
right. And I think sometimes when issues happen when I'm away, she's great and all, but she may handle it just a little different than I would or whatever, and it can cause a little bit of tension. It's not humongous by any
Sure.
means, but it's just a little different. So
Yeah. And that's a tough thing. I mean, it's a thing most people don't even think about. Most people are thinking about, well, if I step away, or there's a quality of the work gonna be maintained, or the estimate's gonna go out on time, this and that. You're at kind of I would say a different level where that stuff's not really the concern, but it's this other level that most people never even really get to or think about, the cultural aspect, and you being the driver of that. How do you one day, and I don't have the exact answer, but how do you one day make that so prevalent, almost have some sort of chief happiness officer or something, you know what I mean? It almost some kind of different position to make that culture run by itself. I don't entirely know what the answer is to that.
right. Yeah, and I think I just saw Gary Vaynerchuk added some person like that to his marketing.
Did it?
Yeah, some kind of chief happiness person or something like that. Yeah, and you hear that in a lot of big corporations. But you're right. Yeah, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle for
Yeah.
sure.
It's such a personal element.
Yeah,
It's not as easy to systematize and tie some KPIs to it and put in the SOPs as, as production and things like that, where it's just kind of
I
it kind
mean,
of runs.
one of the things that I kind of pride myself on a little too, or just the company in general. We have a crew leader meeting every Wednesday morning, and they come in at 6:15 every Wednesday morning, and even that early in the morning they'll be laughing about something, or get on somebody else a little bit about this or that. They're a good team. They help each other out, and they can laugh and have a little bit of a good time too doing it. That's huge for me. I mean,
Yeah.
when I first came in, it was only like 6 or 7 guys, and it was like going to a funeral every week.
Somber tone.
Oh, they had their heads
Man.
down. What am I doing here? Are we done yet? Yeah, that kind of stuff. And there's times where my office manager's got to say, okay, we got to speed this up because it's good stuff. We'll get off on a tangent, about good things, but it's okay. Now we gotta gotta make
Yeah.
it happen. So yeah, in the past, oh my, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Man. And that's great to see. It's that qualitative aspect. It does shine through in terms of profitability and growth and retention, but it's not all about the numbers, and you can't quantify something like that. You just see it. Well, and now speaking of the numbers, do you guys track employee retention? Do you guys track stuff like that? Have you seen that change at all? What is that like?
My employee retention numbers were actually really good up until last year. I mean, I had something like 8% turnover.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
really low. Last year was tough, and I've heard it
It
was,
is a weird year, man.
yeah, I heard it was tough for everybody. I think we might have had a couple bonus surfers. Um,
Yeah, everyone was trying to snipe that talent, if you will.
we were off. I think it was like $400 dollar bonus if you lasted a certain amount of time. It seemed like 2 or 3 of them lasted that time.
Wow.
They were on to the next one. Yeah, last year was just with COVID and everything. It was strange, and I hired some apprentices that you know were less mature than I would have liked, and we had issues there. And
Yeah.
we have a really good apprentice now. He's older. He's going to be great, I believe. So, um, yeah, last year was just rough, and I do want to get back to that, pre 2021 numbers.
Sure.
So, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you from my vantage point, we had a whole lot of conversations with people who really weren't qualified to work with painter marketing pros because everyone and their mother thought that they could run a successful painting business last year. Right. So it was interesting to see some of the thought patterns that were happening, I guess, because of the, that wide disparity between supply and demand throughout 2021.
You may be surprised by this. A lot of people how that are told this. I did an apprentice painter ad through Indeed about a month ago. I had over 200 applicants.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world?
How'd you
just kept coming.
What'd you put in the ad, man?
Well, I think a couple of things. We do pay pretty well, so our apprentices are starting between 19 to 21 an hour. And then I have a couple things in there. What we do is we guarantee a raise after 60 days.
Nice.
So if they're not going to work out, typically we know before 60 days, so they don't get that raise. By 60 days, they should have grown in some aspect. So
they're starting already pretty high, and you've basically set it up where it's almost a probationary period because they're going to be even higher.
Right. Yeah, they're going to get 50 cents or whatever. So I think a lot of applicants like that. The other thing was I talked a lot about how we set up a training manager position this year, and it's not as good as I would like. We're gonna keep working on it. We do have a training program where the apprentices are just with the training manager, and they don't get bounced around to crews and all that. I think people really like that too, because I think there's a lot of ads out there that talk about training, but some don't do it at all. I was at the paint store this morning, and the manager was talking about someone else that had just gone through, and they said, yeah, they have trouble finding some people, and the one employee showed up and didn't know how to put a ladder up. Well, did you ask that question?
Right.
Did you talk to them about ladders at all? Did you do any kind of ladder safety stuff before they even got on the site? That's not the employee's issue. That's the owner's issue. That's the management's issue, that you didn't do everything you needed to do before that guy got on there. That's the kind of stuff you got to slow down a little bit and figure out. Don't put it on that guy because he didn't know how to put a ladder up.
So you're showing the applicants that they're going to have the structure and the training and actually have it, so people are feeling I guess more comfortable coming to you, that they're going to be cared for and set up to succeed.
Right.
Okay. Zach, what other advice or what other advice do you have to share, or what else would you like to say before we wrap this up?
Good question. I've seen a lot lately of guys that are just through different Facebook groups and different things that they're getting overwhelmed with stuff. And we all do. I just think that we all need to figure out, ways to vent that frustration. And if you do really good work, keep going, you'll be fine. I've had a couple different guys come through recently that, have started their own thing within the last couple of years. And I really hit them to say, make sure that you're charging what you're worth.
Yeah.
Don't be charging $25, $30 an hour.
Right.
And then wonder why you're still in that Honda Civic and, working out your Honda Civic in 2 years. Like there's reasons for that. If you do good work, charge for it. That's, I try to, impart that in people all the time. So I think, and that's just good for our industry overall, charge what you're worth. Do good work, but charge what you're worth.
Yeah. Don't cut corners. Don't undercharge. It reduces the entire industry. There is that fear, especially when you say people who started their business within the last few years, there's always that fear of charging too much. And I think if you're going to err one way or the other, you're typically going to err that you charge too little.
I think we get sometimes with our customers that we don't get signed up for, they almost feel bad that they can't afford us. I know that's weird to say, but like they would really like to use us. They tell us all the time, but it's just, well, I just can't afford it. And that's fine. Sure.
It's not that they don't see the value. They just don't have the budget.
Right.
Yeah. And that's good. I mean, you don't want that customer because you need to provide the service that you provide while making it make business sense for you.
Right. I mean, we pay with the apprentices, they're making starting at 20. My average pay is almost 25, 26 an hour now.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why our rates are where they're at.
Yeah. So I think that's great advice. Zach, if anyone has any questions about this, how can they reach out to you?
Well, you can go on our website. It's aushermanpainting.com. My email is zach@aushermanpainting.com. I'm in a couple of different of the Facebook groups, the painting contractors group. I think there's a couple of them. I don't know.
Yeah, you're around on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm around a lot of different. You can look through my Facebook and contact me that way. And I do every couple of weeks. Somebody contacts me about something, and I'll help them out as much as I can. That's all good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Zach, thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing all this, man, and really appreciate you coming on the show again.
Thanks, Bernie.
If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.